because of their personality, but not really that they're on the same page as you.
Exactly.
And not really being able to differentiate that, but for everything else is really holistic in your life.
Yeah.
You know,
Yes.
and there's so many people like that. And just the way you kind of reworded it without criticizing.
Yeah.
So still empowering her, and that's still her story, and that's still, you know, was very good. I feel like we old timers have to do that constantly. People don't really. I don't know how to get other providers to see that other way, because I have an autoimmune disease, and when I got sick, of trying to balance both worlds.
Yeah.
And sometimes I feel like some people just put blinders on either way they want to see it, but don't, when it comes to their own health, they don't try to balance the two.
Yeah. Yeah. It's incredible to me that I'm constantly trying to get people to see this other side. And there was, I'm not sure, why can't I remember names right now? But Doula Bay is her name. I had interviewed her, and we were talking, and she said this great thing of, like, you know, she always asks people, how do you like your provider? And the second they say, she's like, okay, let me send you some information on midwives. And she sends them a video on the doula birth diaries, I think it is. And then people are always automatically want to switch to midwifery or speak to a midwife.
Because it is true that you have a relationship with someone that, you know, you've been seeing for a long time, but for birth, you might be on a different page. And even when people say, I love my doctor, it's like, what do you love about them? You know? And then when you really get it out, I said, oh, but for birthing, you wanted to do this. Doesn't sound like they're on the same page to do that, you know?
Exactly. And that's the hardest part of this work, because, you know, I had someone contact me and was like, I want a VBAC with a doctor who doesn't do VBACs. And I'm just like, what are we doing here? Like, you're asking me to be a miracle worker right now. Your doctor isn't supportive of VBACs. And it's like, and I had to, like, question her so she could see. I was like, what does she ask you about VBACs? And she's like, oh, she's always asking me if I want to schedule my C-section. And like, that's not a VBAC supportive provider, right?
I feel like that's a good class to run of kind of dissecting that part of it. Like, what's attracting you to choose something that is opposite of what you say you want?
Yeah.
So is it that you really want it or not?
Yeah. Yeah. And how you can achieve it, or even just, you know,
you can always go back to that person for your pap smears again.
Yes. Or not. Or not. Yeah. You know, I find that there's
or not.
Right? There's this loyalty to providers and this guilt that people feel. And I'm like, someone is going to take your place. Don't worry. There's always going to be someone for that person, but that person doesn't have to be you. Like, all of the care.
You're paying for a service.
Exactly. Yeah.
You know, you don't buy size 9 shoes when you wear size 7.
or even exactly. I love that analogy. I'm going to steal that. I'm going to start using that one.
Use it.
You know, I have a really good friend, and she says, you know, stop going to the hardware store for oranges.
Yeah.
You know, and I try to say that one too, but, you know, it's something that is like the hardest challenge. Or, you know, I love my provider, but there are 10 people in the practice. So you're not going to get your provider.
Did you like the others?
Yeah, exactly. Or they're not even meeting the others. I love that one. They're not even meeting the others. And so that is also another one. But let me ask Mike if he's ready. Are you? How does everything sound?
You guys sound fantastic. I've been doing sound checks this whole time. And
okay.
Yeah, we're ready to rock and roll.
Okay. We're working with Mike today. It's usually Raul, so Mike is one of the owners. So we're getting VIP today.
I wish. Raul's a pro. So I'm gonna do my best. But everything looks great. You guys sound fantastic. I'm excited. This is gonna be a good episode. I'm gonna take notes over here. Okay. If there's anything else you need, just, you know, I'm listening. So
yeah. Cool. And I also just wanted to tell you, Martine, too, that if you you know, get caught on a word or lose your train of thought, don't worry about it. It's edited. You can just stop and start over again. I really just want it to be like, us having a conversation as if, I was in your living room or you were in my living room, and just, getting to know each other.
And that's what I was looking forward to going down. And I had a recap meeting about the webinar this morning. I was like, there's no way in hell I can run down there.
yeah, exactly. So I want to be mindful of your time. Yeah, it's definitely. And also, it's usually about, I would say about 40, 45 minutes. So we'll be right on time for you to make your next meeting.
No, I had it before.
Oh, you had it before.
I would never be able to get down there because I just finished maybe 15 minutes ago.
Oh, okay. No, yeah, then no, there would have been no way. Okay, great. So we have a little time on the other end if in case. Now, and I sent you the list of questions. So I generally just start off with those questions and then see where the conversation comes up. And there's some questions that I didn't ask on there that I want to ask you, but I just want it to be spontaneous, and it's nothing. It's just like
okay, so it's good that you're pre-recording, so if you give me a doozy, I'll be a hama. And then you go, Mike.
exactly. Time out. Yeah. So yeah. Okay. Great. It's not a doozy. It's really simple. It's questions we get asked all the time. So okay. All right.
I'm ready.
All right. I'm ready when you are, Mike.
Cool. All right. Just give me 5 seconds of silence.
Okay.
And we'll be ready to rock.
Good morning, Martine. I want to welcome you to the show.
Good morning, Annette. Thanks for having me.
Oh, definitely. I'm going to start off with just some questions. The first question is, what career did you want to do when you were in grade school, high school, and college?
I always kind of was attracted to health and health care, but I do remember when I got to college taking sociology, and I thought I really wanted to be a sociologist. Yeah. I was like how many these, anatomy and physiology and other things that I was like, can I just take more into sociology? And I realized I was like, well, maybe that's not really what I want to do, but it, will play a role and be handy in when I moved, towards healthcare.
What was it that attracted to you to sociology?
I just really like to try to understand how people understand the world.
Yeah. I found that fascinating when I took a sociology course of just the perception of the world and how things often change your perception of your world, and how so many people can see it differently in one aspect. I thought that was fascinating. Yeah.
Right. That's it. And I feel like what I drew from that too, just help you just live inside and try to understand people. And being a midwife, I said it's so much more than that. And you need to have those kind of skills and that kind of background and knowledge also.
So you said too that you were always drawn to health. So what was it about health that attracted you?
Just the way the body works, and it can heal itself, or not. It was just kind of a little interest. My mother's mother is from a real small town in the south of Haiti called Benin, and she was like the town healer. The first time I went to Haiti, I was 9. And oh my God, did I get sick? Oh my God! By the time we, went down to the south and was with her, I was like with a fever, like I felt I was just going to die. Mm-hmm. And I remember her bringing me some green concoction, and I was telling my mother, "Don't make me drink that! Don't make me drink that!" And I was cured. Wow! And then my mother, when she moved to my mother was. What used to be called a baby nurse, but then when she went to the States, she wound up, working for a bank. Oh. But came here with 4 kids. So, but and just I just was always kind of a little bit fascinated by the whole idea.
Okay.
And so I got into, and I also know I don't like to be stuck in anything. Mm-hmm. So I did become a nurse because I knew there were lots of avenues within that career that I could take and things I could do as a nurse.
Yeah.
So that's what kind of attracted me to become a nurse first. Yeah.
Okay. And then, so from when you became, how long were you a nurse before you decided to go into midwifery?
11 years.
11
But I
years.
knew I liked maternal child health, but everyone said, which was very true, not everyone is not just pregnant.
That's
true. Before you get pregnant, you have other things. So that everyone's like, you should work, med surge. So try to get background experience. And then my first job I did take as a med surge nurse, which was lovely. I had a lovely group that I worked with. I had a very encouraging Black supervisor, and her supervisor was Black.
That's important.
And just kind of having those role models was fabulous for me. But I got sick of being with sick people. Yeah. We would, show up sometimes and be like so thrilled. We'd say like, out of my 10 patient assignment, I have 2 walkie-talkies, like people walk and talk. Yeah. And then I know this is not what I want to do. Bring, people down to the morgue. And there's another element that I really would rather, and I knew I wanted to do maternal child health. So then, I only planned on staying for like a year, but we had such a good team that we worked with. Even to this day, I'm still really good friends with other nurses I worked with. And so then I said, I have to keep going. And then I went into maternal child health and worked as a labor and delivery nurse. And then at that time, they started doing what was called cross-training, which some people that were there for a long time were resistant, but me being newer, I loved it. So we used to rotate. I was predominantly labor and delivery, but we had to also work in postpartum and work in the newborn nursery. And I have to say, I did like labor and birth more. I liked postpartum second best, and nursery, I detested. I thought it was the most bizarre thing in the world. I'm like, their mothers are down the hall. Why are they all screaming at me at the same time? I can't pick them all up. I can't take care of them. And then when we used to have the poor little border babies that were, social hold for, whatever issues that the mother had. Like, I felt sorry. They're only touched or when their diapers are changed or when they're being fed. Yeah. So I guess now they can't fire me now. But I used to take sheets and make a holder, kangaroo hold, because I worked night. Yeah. So if the supervisor was coming, I could go this way. They wouldn't see that I had the baby on me, so I'd carry the babies around.
Oh, that's amazing! That is amazing. That is incredible. It's an incredible story. I remember my nephew when he was 2, they thought he had meningitis, and he was in Harlem Hospital, and we went, and I remember passing by a room, and there was a baby, and she could not have been any more than she couldn't have been more than a year and a half, and the crib looked like a cage because it had a top on it. And she was screaming. And I got there, and I went to her room, and my nephew was sleeping. And I just kept hearing this baby scream and hearing this baby scream. And I just remember I walked into the room because nobody was coming. And I walked into the room, and I just started stroking her hand because at first that's all she would let me. And she was trying through the screen and then, through the bars. And I remember just calming her down by just touching her. And I just remember thinking, oh my God, no one has touched this little girl all day. And you don't know the story, but just I spent as much time.
When you're working, you can't.
You can't. Yeah, you can't. And it was heartbreaking to me. It was I think I stayed in her room for about an hour before a nurse came in and was like, what do you, and I was like, I just wanted to calm her down. She was crying, and yeah. So I can imagine being a nurse at night and having all these babies, and you're just like, this is what they need.
Right.
Yeah. Oh, that's fascinating. That's fascinating. And then from there, how long did you stay there? And then you went into midwifery.
Instead of working my year in med surge, I wound up staying 3 years. And I was like, I like these people, but I have to leave.
Yeah. Uh-huh.
And then I went and labor and delivery for about 5 years or so.
Okay.
And then at the time, the hospital I was working at was a small community hospital. It was newer.
Mm-hmm.
They had no residents. It was run by midwives. So that was another good reinforcement of midwifery and introduction to midwifery to me. Although I was first introduced to midwifery when I was a college student. Mm-hmm. Some class we had, and we visited maternity center that was on the east side, the freestanding birth center that had been on the east side, which is put up as a pilot project that lasted way beyond that for out-of-hospital birth and midwifery care. And just going there, then I wind up starting to use them for my GYN. And then so when I worked at this community hospital, it was just really run by midwives. And so I got to taste midwifery. And I also felt I wanted to kind of explore and see other things too, because they had sorry.
No way.
Cut. There we go. Okay, so when I was working there too, I also did training to become a certified childbirth educator. And I also used to teach childbirth classes, which was really nice. So I did private classes and I did group classes. And I also was able to teach not just for myself, but I also taught at, which is no longer in existence, at Litch. So I got the whole spectrum of New Yorkers to kind of cater to some, these huge classes where everyone's intimidated to put their hand up. I remember one time there was only this one man that would ask questions to the whole class. And afterwards, everyone wanted your attention to actually separate because they were afraid to speak out in class. Yeah. And then to teaching private classes. And then sometimes I even do home private classes for people, because that was a time when everybody was on bed rest with preterm birth, so they had no sense of community, and we didn't have this big internet age. So it was like connecting other bedridden people to have telephone buddies and things like that to try to make build a sense of community that they weren't getting because they weren't going out too much. And then I that was like in the I started there at 89 to 95, 96. So around that time, just people started doing labor support, which is now a whole certification, what's called doulas. Yes. And I just thought, wouldn't it be cool to go with people when they're having their babies? And I was like, then try to make it professional. So I have your little business card. Martine Jean-Baptiste professional labor support. I had as my title. Yeah. And it was really, I really, really enjoyed it because till that time, because the way I worked was, it was a hospital. It was a time when they were just starting to introduce epidurals, but like I said, it was run by midwives. So at the bigger teaching hospital, when I first started, if they needed a neonatologist, they would have to come from the other hospital to our hospital. Yeah. So it was really autonomous. They didn't have epidurals. They didn't have anesthesia for labor, just for if you had a cesarean, they would come, the regular anesthesia, but it wasn't one from our department. So you really saw midwifery care being done. Yeah. And since then, it has totally changed. It's so not what I started as. So people walked in labor. Yeah. We actually fed people in labor. They drank. They used the shower. They were, they didn't do water births or, out of the hospital, but they weren't so restricted. And so it was a real way to see labor the way labor was, and even then when it started getting a little crazier and busier, sometimes I would say, oh God, the ship came in, every room and then some is filled. And, just honoring, being able to just see and honor birth, because we had sometimes a lot of foreigners that would come. And I felt sorry when one shift, it was crazy. I think every New Yorker was pregnant and there. And this poor little woman from Mexico had other kids in Mexico at home, put her in a room, go, taking care of everybody else. You come back, she's nursing the baby. Waiting for the placenta to come out, looking at us like we're crazy. And we're like, baby, 5 minutes ago, 10 minutes ago.
Yeah, what time?
Like,
we need the time.
She's like, I'm sure she was thinking, like, why did I come to the hospital?
Yes.
And I'm here by myself. Where if I was back in Mexico, I'd have my family with me. They put me in a room. I think by myself. I had my baby. Then they could ask me questions about it.
Yeah.
So it was a nice entry into seeing birth happens, so to speak. Not that they didn't intervene and we didn't have sick women with preeclampsia and eclampsia and all the other things, but you got to see a little difference of care. And then when I started teaching childbirth classes, and when I decided I wanted to do labor support too, I feel like all the conservative people would be like, why do we want to do that? And she's like, why are you going to leave? Why are you going to leave? And I said, well, if you see me on Broadway for Cup, please put more than $1 in it. I was like, this is the other part that he felt led him to talk about, having chose nursing, because I feel like I wanted to explore it. I wanted to be able to do other things within what I'm already doing, So I started to do labor support, and that's when it really opened my eyes to what really was going on in New York.
Yeah.
It got it was so medicalized in so many places. And I was just like, when I used to complain about my job where I was like, oh my God, I didn't know I really had it so good.
Yeah.
Or the women had it so good here. It's like, it's a given that, yeah, you're going to eat food. Like, you don't have to access for a tray of regular food.
Exactly.
Unless you had surgery, the first one's liquid or whatever. But or other things. And I was just so taken aback. It got to a point where it was really becoming really difficult for me to advocate and always be in that role for people. So it came to a point sometimes when they would say they were going to a certain hospital. If I already had my fill of how many people I felt I could take care of, even if I could probably take care of one, I was like, okay, as long as I could pay my bills, I just can't even stomach going into certain hospitals anymore. Yeah. And then that's when that helped me also figure out that, well, maybe I am ready to take that step, because I had been feeling like I wanted to be a midwife, but I just wasn't ready to cross over yet. Yeah. And so in doing that, I was saying, I could maybe make more of a difference to help more people if I was actually in the midwifery, in the role of as the midwife versus trying to be labor. Like, no, I don't think can we talk about that? I was like, I can't, that's, it's just starting to get not to be, it was just a little too difficult. And I came to also, even teaching childbirth education for so long, I started feeling like it was almost, I was a warped record saying the same thing always. And also, I felt the same kind of feeling like, well, maybe I could, what I believe in, I can help give people if I'm actually the provider. Yeah. And like leading them to the good classes, the good doula, and then taking it so that they don't have all these expectations and learn all these things. And then when they go actually have their baby in the postpartum period, no one's looking out for them with what their intentions were. So then I decided to pursue midwifery, but it still took me a while. Yeah. I went to an orientation at Downstate, and then I didn't sign up. Then I went and signed up, and I did a week at Maternidad La Luz in El Paso, Texas, to see if, could I really, with my life uninterrupted, because I knew what midwifery was, could I really, really want to do this? And then I was like, yes, I do. But I knew I didn't want to be a CPM, a certified professional midwife, because I'm a New Yorker. Die hard, not even the other boroughs, Manhattan, the center of my universe. Exactly. And so I knew I couldn't do that, and I would have to, go back. So then I went eventually to another orientation at Downstate, and then that time I actually signed up and went to school again. Yeah, because I was like, I'm not getting younger, I better go. But in that interim, also after teaching childbirth classes and just doing labor support, maternity center closed. And Elizabeth Scene Childbearing Center, that was a freestanding birth center, that was on 14th Street had opened. And when it opened, some people contacted me and asked me, did I want to work there as a nurse? So I worked there as a nurse from the time it opened and then I worked there as a midwife till it closed. So I worked there, and that was so nice to see people, because after I became a midwife, my first midwifery job was, in a inner city hospital, everyone with epidurals, I would go to Elizabeth Seton every now and then. I was like, I just want to hear labor song. I just want to hear someone scream out. Yes. That's not anesthetized. I was like, I want to hear birth again. Yes. So I worked there as a nurse, and then I went to midwifery school. And when I applied, at that time, the full time was 2 years. The part time was 2 years, and the full time was a year, a little bit more than a year. And so I was going to go part time because I could not afford to not work at the same time. Yeah. And that year they changed it and made part time 3 years. So it was that little decision. I didn't budget to be broke for 3 years.
Exactly.
I'm like, can I really do this? Is this realistic? And I was like, I'm not getting younger. If I'm going to do this, I have to just do it. Yeah. And but there's a will, there's a way, and you figure it out. And I'm so grateful that I did, and for the education I had marvelous preceptors, and they. Because I had been in the birth world, so to speak, for a while. I knew a lot of midwives and things too. And even, in precepting, there's one of my preceptors, she was just wonderful. She was be like, okay, da-da-da-da-da-da is happening. So what's your plan? What are you going to do? What would you do if you were at home? And then I would say, da-da-da-da-da-da. She said, okay, now we're at Litch. What are you going to do? Yeah. I'm like, okay, epidural, let's go. Yeah. And so, always, I feel like I had that strong
foundation
people around me and community helping me because they knew I only went to be a midwife because I wanted to do home birth eventually. Mm-hmm. And everybody kind of knew that and respected that. It was so funny. Sometimes I would be working, something would go wrong, and people would be like, and you still want to do that home birth stuff? I'm like, this is why I want to be home birth. I was like, this is exactly why I want to do it. I was like, this wouldn't happen if we didn't do this and this to her. She probably would be fine right now. Yeah. So I think some people, it's not for everybody, and I keep saying that. And I think sometimes people would shy away from me, like friends, family, or other people, or lay people inquiring. I always said, I'm here to offer the service for those that want it. Yeah. I'm not here to push it. You will figure out how to have your baby. Yes. I'm not au natural or die. It's you have to figure out what it is for you. Just the same as if I pick a dentist, and I picked this dentist because he gives everybody, laughing gas. That's why I go, because I want my laughing gas. Yeah. You figure out what you want, Yeah. So in that sense, I think sometimes people are taken aback, but I think it's, people need to have access for whatever is right for them, hospital, home, or birth center. And just having more people out there.
And I feel that that's the strongest, right? Like that is what this is about. It's about choice and option. Like everyone should have a choice to give birth, where and how they want to give birth, right? And I remember when I was pregnant with my son, I had said this once before on a podcast. It was, after my best friend was pregnant at the same time with her third. And I remember we would go to prenatal yoga together. And afterwards, everyone's like, what's hospital? What doctor? And I was just like, home birth, midwife. Oh my God, that's so dangerous. And it was like resounding how everyone, and I was like, no, it's not, because this is New York City. And if it was dangerous, we wouldn't have it. And also, I don't feel like I want to spend my pregnancy educating you about my choice. Like, this is my choice. I can tell you that, if I sat there and told you more babies die in hospitals than they do in home birth, you would be like, no, that's not true, because, I haven't heard about it. And it's like, so I just always remember going like, feeling like that we're not educated enough about our choices, some of us. Right. And it's like that now with this pandemic, at the height of it, when the hospitals were making these decisions of not having partners or, making these drastic changes, and then there was that huge influx of people who wanted to come to home birth.
That was insane.
Yeah,
that was insane.
So talk a little bit about that.
And everything else. And, I still go back to think that, pregnancy is a healthy state. Yeah, there are things that can happen. So I felt like that was the first thing they should have pulled out of a hospital. But that doesn't mean home birth or birth center style. There are women that need their epidurals, and that's what they were planning. So I feel like they didn't have a voice, they didn't have a choice. And it was like, let's take it out in like open birth centers and everybody should go have a home birth. And I was like, how about these other people that walk that fine line? Or they're not ill, but they do need a little bit more monitoring or intervention, and they, or an epidural. We need to figure out and maybe pull it out and set up centers where they can do that.
Exactly.
And it's so focused on that, like either you go to the hospital with no support person and get your epidural and everything else, or you have to go the extreme other opposite that you didn't even want and have a home birth. Having a home birth is not just being physically low risk, it's mentally low risk, and having a support system. Yeah. And it's invaluable not to have that, or not to be able to consciously make that choice for yourself. Because even people that are in partnership having children together, sometimes one is more on board than the other. Yeah. And you really need your village, your team to be on the same page to really be able to accept if you actually do birth at home, or being able to process why you had to transfer, if you had to transfer, and what does that mean, and how do you go on, Yeah. And so I think those pieces are not addressed. It's not home birth is not a place. Hospital is not a place. It's it's the whole concept of how you're bringing your child into the world, and how you want to be taken care of, how you want your child taken care of. So it's not the physical place in and of itself. And I think people are just too centered on that part. Yeah. And I think it's a false sense of security when you go to an institution, a hospital or birth center, that you're not taking any responsibility.
Yes.
Then it's so much easier for people like, they did this to me. They said, but where was your voice? That would always blow my mind when I would take transfers. Into, that didn't start with me from the time they peed on their stick. Yeah. And then, and you'll have the consult, and they'll, talk about their whole holistic way of living, and they're minimalist, and and then they'll come with a chart that's like this thick. And I was like, where was your voice when they did all this to you?
Yes,
like,
exactly.
Where was your voice? Like, you were tested for this, they did this, and then you followed up and had 10 sonograms, and you had and like, where was your voice then? And it's sad, because I totally understand it. It is intimidating when you only have a short time. Like, unfortunately now I have health insurance through exchange. I was like, never in my life. I don't give this kind of care. Yes, I'm still waiting to have my new visit with my PCP. You tried to, I picked a family practice. The first appointment is December 31st.
Exactly.
And it's like, it comes out like 15 minutes. I said, no, but it's a new visit. Yeah. Like 15 minutes. I was like, what are they going to learn about me in 15 minutes as a new client? I was like, this is absurd. Yeah. But this piecemeal care that that is the norm here. And, it's shocking. Yeah. And even you were talking about COVID before, and I'm afraid of some of the telehealth stuff that has come out of it is very positive, and there's a lot that's going to be very negative. Yeah. Not really addressing and really seeing
issues, of course, because one of the things I sit on a conference call once a month with an organization that does centering. And like they have centering pregnancy, centering mothering, but in these hospitals, and they talked about some of the concerns of doing telehealth, which people don't think. People think, oh yeah, your doctor can see more people, right? And you're in your home, but everyone's in your home. And how forthright and honest are you going to be if everyone can hear in your home what you're talking about with your physician? So it's like you said, there's some positive aspects to it, but then there's some other aspects that people aren't taking into consideration of.
Seeing more doing better work.
Sorry?
I said seeing more people
doing better work. No, exactly.
When I look at sometimes how many people I would see in a 4-hour period when I was a midwife in a big inner city hospital, and then I had my home birth practice. Like I couldn't possibly do that.
No, yeah, and that's the
my
level of
visits are 45 minutes an hour.
Exactly, and that's the level of care that people are willing to kind of just like put aside as norm, right? Not understanding that you do need more than 15 minutes to get to know someone's whole health history and really have a conversation about what's going on if you're really looking to help them heal, right? And process. And I kind of felt the same kind of shift happened when The Business of Being Born came out. Everyone like rushed to home birth. And I remember being a doula, and I loved the movie on some aspects. I also felt that there was an element of it that was missing, that people didn't quite understand, right? And I would tell my clients, were like, I'm having a home birth, and I was like, why are you having a home birth? And they're like, well, because I'm afraid of hospitals. And I was like, that's not a reason to have a home birth. I was like, because if you're having a home birth because you're afraid of hospitals, guess where you're going to wind up? In the hospital. Because you didn't choose home birth because that's where you feel.
Starting to do that film and doing their research, I think I was a little too radical for them. And I was like, you're not even ready for this film anymore. I was like, you need to go do more research and do this. I'm a blurred thing by a tree. I'm blurred by the tree.
Oh, wow. It was really interesting.
But you got the same thing. And even the scene about the birth, that's not how it
happens.
That's not how it happened. She had her own provider. It wasn't a home birth midwife, Cara, and
Yeah, exactly. That's not, most people, and a lot of people thought that, well, if anything goes wrong, I could have this provider. And I was like, no, that was for the movie. That provider wound up getting in trouble for doing that. I was like, because that's not how it works. And you have to really understand the process and how it works. Like I often felt like I was counseling people to really pay attention and tune into themselves, right? Because it was always about, well, I'm going to do this home birth, but if things get hard, I can go get my epidural. And I was like, that's not it either.
Right.
It is definitely a mindset, like you mentioned. You have to choose it for all of the right reasons. And sometimes partners also. And I was like, if your husband's not on board and that's really important to you, you're going to wind up in the hospital, or you're going to spend most of your time worrying about him, worrying about you. Like, that's not how this process goes. So when you did your first home birth, what was that experience like?
It was lovely. I have a picture of her all grown up.
Oh, wow. How old is she now?
She's 20.
Wow.
Right? No, 18.
18. Okay. Yeah. Yeah. So how was that? I mean, as coming from your background, having worked in the hospital, childbirth educator, and now you come into and nurse in the hospital, and also then doing, working in the maternity ward, and now you went through the process of becoming a nurse midwife in that time. When you were studying to be a nurse midwife, you were still taking birth clients as a professional labor support? Or
no, when I was in midwifery school at Downstate, I was working at Elizabeth Seton.
Oh, Elizabeth Seton.
Okay,
Center. Yeah. So then, your first birth. It
was amazing.
Yeah.
It was amazing. I mean, I had attended some home births as a labor support person, but to be a midwife and doing it was amazing. I loved it. I felt like I've arrived. This is what I've been wanting to do. And it was, I love it. And I think especially doing home births in New York is like so special.
Yeah.
You really meet a lot of people that you would never interact with just because you don't you know, there's some I'm a New Yorker that will go to any borough and move around, but there are other ones that it's like you need a passport to go to the Bronx or something.
Exactly, right? Exactly. Yeah.
But I have to say, Staten Island is not some place that I knew anybody really. So if I didn't have that connection, I probably would not go to Staten Island as much, and I don't. Not that I'm not working, but you really get to meet different people and really see them because you're seeing them. You're a guest in their home. You get to really see how they live, what they think, how they feel. So people are more open when the tables are turned and you're not sitting behind a desk and asking questions. You're sitting on the couch. Someone recently was telling me about. She was asking so many questions about how people have to prepare their house for birth. I said, just remember, this is where they live. So I was like, you're going into it, it is what it is. And this is where, the baby's going to grow up with, this flora around them and everything else. And some people are really dumbfounded to say that sometimes I've never seen the whole apartment or the whole house, because you do the visits wherever they say. We're sitting at the kitchen table, we're sitting in the living room or whatever. And sometimes it's the time of the birth is when I see more of the apartment or the house. And, I was like, it's just the same. You're a guest at someone's house. I don't tend to like people to come to my house and just go down my hallway and open my doors. It's like, it's the same thing. It's the same thing. And, so it's amazing. Like I said, you really get to see so many cultures and how they live and within their, cultural context, different religions, and, what goes on. This is the other part that I really learned. People are really people. So these are labels, what your religion is, what your culture is. Because then there's, what do you do when your door is closed?
Yeah, exactly. Behind your closed door.
I've got lots of stories on that one. It's like, okay, so this is the real deal. It's like, who would have known? Like, first time I saw, it's, for instance, Orthodox people that are totally tattooed. And I would not have even thought about it because you don't know that what you don't know. And not everyone is born into it, just like any other religion. But we almost think that it's that way. And it's like, and it's so not. Or, religious Muslim women that, if you see them in the street, all you see is their eyes. But when you go for your visits, you're at their house, they're wearing jeans, a t-shirt, their hair's dyed, the makeup's on, and they look, totally, so like things you wouldn't even know. You make assumptions, and you just probably figured they're like that at home all the time. They're like this, or they were born into this religion. They didn't choose to, to convert. Like you could choose to convert to other things, but people choose to convert to, so it was quite eye-opening, quite a blessing, and I love it. It's just such a wide variety of people you could meet in New York.
I also think too that people have a big stigma around transferring, like if you have a home birth and you have to transfer. Like, can you talk through that process a little bit?
I think if you start from home birth, you already know you're giving yourself the best option to have the least amount of unnecessary interventions, and to know if you are transferred, it is that you did need something the hospital had to offer. This is no way bashing people that choose hospital birth, but when you go to a hospital, you are open to the other interventions because you're there and because they have them. Whereas you're going there because you know you need something. And it's a real different outlook. And that goes from the minute, someone calls for, inquiring, you're screening on the phone, and you have a consult with them before. You're screening and doing risk assessment throughout the whole pregnancy. In labor and birth, the postpartum period, after when you come back, you're still screening and doing assessment risk to see if, because I said you can be transferred when you're pregnant, during the pregnancy, you can be transferred in labor, the mom or the baby, or you can be transferred after you've had the baby, everything seemed fine and something else happens, and the mom and baby could be transferred, or you go back for a postpartum visit the next day and something's not right, and then you can be transferred. So I try to get the clients to understand it doesn't really, your goal is your goal, and you should have your dream and your goal. And then there's the reality of you have to make decisions as it comes and take it as it comes. Yeah. I had someone that we did everything under the sun, and this kid was just not coming. And so, she's like, okay, we'll go to the hospital. And when we got there, they were doing everything under the sun. And I felt like they were bending over backwards because she was, transferred from home birth. The staff knew me and da-da-da. And then she turned to me, she said, Martine, this kid is not coming out of my vagina. Are you going to be okay? And I was like, I'm going to be okay. She's like, call it already. It's not coming today. I'm like, okay. Yeah. But so I think when you have people that have realistic expectations, it's easier. Is it still hard and disappointing? Yes. And I think what makes it harder and more disappointing is a term that I really detest. No one says you had a successful hospital birth. Why is it that you have a successful home birth? What's successful about it?
Yeah.
What's successful about a hospital? Why is it's not you're not being graded on this.
Yeah.
Did you have a successful period last month? What does it mean? The terminology is so judgmental and so wrong. Yeah. I did do a birth with she's a childbirth educator and doula that's been around for a while. And this woman was having a difficult time really to, birth her baby. And then when she did, she turned around to me, she said, Martine, I think that was a failed cesarean. And I was just like, I like that term, I'm going to use it.
Oh, yeah, that's a good one. That is a good one. It's true. It is true. There's
stop judging. And I think you're going to feel anything that doesn't happen, right? You do feel disappointment, and that should be worked through and talked to. And I think that's what's good about the continuity of care that home birth midwives do, that you can process with somebody that actually was there to keep it realistic. Because even as a midwife, sometimes friends and family tell me stories, and I'm like, you're missing something because X can happen before. You process this, someone didn't explain what happened, or you're really missing pieces. And I think that's what helps people feel okay about the experience. And I've had people that one woman I shared, her baby was having a real hard time transitioning, and we transferred the baby, right? And then she came back, had another home birth. She's like, I can't believe people are telling me, like, am I crazy because I'm going to plan another home birth? She can understand what they can understand, and they can understand the other way. So I think some of the parts that keep making people feel bad is that society doesn't understand or respect birth.
Exactly.
And so it's their stuff that you're carrying, and not so much like you've given it up or went past it, but you constantly are hearing this, and you start feeling like, well, maybe what I'm thinking is not the norm because everybody else is thinking that, I did something wrong, or I didn't succeed, or I should be, more disappointed, or I should, and, and I think, the two poles, the life and death, are just so mysterious still to people that it's hard to really get people to really listen and not be as judgmental about how people choose to come into the world and how people choose to leave the world.
I find that would do exactly. I find that really fascinating too. When I often have to, when I have conversations about home birth with potential clients or clients, and it's just a conversation around, it's choice and option. These are the choices. I chose this, you chose something different. Or even going into the hospital and having doctors question me as to whether or not I do home birth, or they'll say, oh, I can't imagine this at a home birth. And I'm just like, this is such an inopportune time to bring that up. And also because I want to turn to them and be like, do you want to have a conversation with me about it? Afterwards, we can go have coffee, or we can talk at some other time so I can educate you about home birth. But this is not going to happen at a home birth. And you aren't even educated enough about home birth. You're just based off.
Like I said, you don't know what you don't know. And you're fearing what you don't know.
No, yeah.
The perception without trying to learn more is where you're judging and saying it as an authority when you don't have the experience or the knowledge about we had, when I worked at the birth center, when it was kind of taken over by St. Vincent's and all these politics, the director at the time wanted to, him to be told every time someone came into the birth center. Because I thought about how bizarre that was. Yeah. Then I said, on the other side, they only see who you transfer. They don't see all the people you triage, all the births that happened at the birth center. And then when he saw how much we were doing over, across the street, then he was like, oh my God. And the same, like, said someone with, usually pediatricians didn't even ask for the baby records, but there were orders available to, if they, to take to the pediatrician. This pediatrician asked for the records, and they gave them, and they're like, oh, she did all of that? Yeah. I'm like, when do people show up, like, we catch the baby, it's like, oh, kid's cute, bleeding, I'm out,
Exactly.
She did a newborn screen. She did, the
measurements, the ointments.
She did the weight. She did an exam. She came, full newborn exam. She came back and did another one, and they're like totally blown away. Like, so, but you don't know. One birth, I do remember, she was having, I think it was her 5th or something, and she was a pastor's wife, and she had a teen in her church that was pregnant and, not knowing so much. So she invited her to the birth. Then, me and my business partner showed up. She was like, you're midwives? And then I was like, what did you think we were going to look like? Like, what is your perception? I was like, I think I do own a pair of Birkenstock somewhere. I was like, should I have beads and flowers? Or not?
And incense, I think they think, you remember years ago when there was like these little snippets of like pictures of like a midwife, what I do versus what they think I do. And it was like all of these other things, and the same with doulas. Yeah, they have these ideas of like who's going to show up and what they're going to do. And even when I'm in the hospital, I remember telling a doctor one time, they're like, oh, this would be awful at home. Like, it was messy. And I was like, this doesn't happen at home. I was like, there's not blood on the walls.
That whole messy concept.
Exactly.
I just don't get it.
I don't get it.
Like, because I always tell my clients, like, we are housekeeping, and I don't like to clean.
Yeah,
so it's like,
exactly.
It's so messy. Exactly. Like, you have disposable stuff, but it's not all that in the hospital. It's like, people are disrespectful, I think, of housekeepers. So they just feel like they could just fling and do
and throw things everywhere. I find sometimes in hospitals,
I feel like you're trying to be extra neat. You're in someone's home.
You're in someone's home, exactly. And I find myself sometimes in hospitals when blood is on the floor, like afterwards, and they're like, leave it. And I'm just like, you're walking through that, and you're walking. I was like, no, I'm not going to leave it. And I'll put something down and clean it up. And I was like, I don't want to walk through that. This is someone's bodily fluid. This is, this is a life source. Like, no, I'm not. They don't have the same concept of it. I think you're right. No, it's really, and I'm glad. I like the way you framed transferring for these reasons, and you chose home birth with the reality that something could happen and you would need something more that we couldn't get at home. And I feel that a lot of people have this perception of home birth as like it's like an episode of ER, when all of a sudden everyone's running to the hospital. And I was like, that is not the level of care that you're going to get.
Most of them aren't so non-emergency transfers. They know this kid is not coming out. The number one transfer reason is a baby that is just not moving down the pelvis. And the contractions sometimes are not sufficient enough to do it. And the baby's in a odd position that you've done all your tricks to try to jiggle the kid into a better position, and the parents know that you've been thinking about it. They've been thinking about it, and then they know that they're going to pack up, getting your Toyota, and you're going to drive off to the hospital. The other part is, if they were planning to go to the hospital and were really waiting for what's the good time to go to the hospital, that's probably when they would be going to the hospital.
Exactly.
That the kid's still not coming.
Exactly. And I like it's unfortunate. I only had one birth experience with you as a doula, and it was incredible. It was pretty amazing.
Time after we reconnected, I was like, it took me a time. I was like, yeah, I was at a birth.
Yeah, exactly.
You can't talk to each other.
Yeah, we weren't really talking, and also, I mean, she was a rock star anyway. It was like we arrived and she was like almost fully dilated, you know. And I remember after the birth, I don't recall if it was I think it was after the birth we were talking about, you asked her a question. And I had been to many home births and I had never had a home birth midwife ask this question. And you said, "What did you learn about yourself?" And I was so floored. I remember going, yes, that's right. This is your experience, and empowering them to take that back. Whereas most of the time, everyone's just talking about all the aspects of the birth. But yeah, all those aspects, but she didn't. You know, even I had a home birth. My home birth midwife didn't ask me that, but it was just like the whole...
I used to like to ask, what did you learn about yourself? What did you learn about your partner?
Yeah.
What would you do the same? What would you do differently? And let them process that, answer or non-answer, but it's good conversation that you planted the seed of these are the things that you need to process and talk about as a family now, with me or without me. And then also how the answers get different. The perspective changes when you ask somebody that just had a baby, when you go back, a couple of days, when you see them at 6 weeks, and then just seeing how they transition and kind of incorporate their birth into how they're going to mother or how they're going to live is really interesting to see it unfold.
Yeah. And just so you know, I'm not mentioning that client's name, but I sent her a message that I was going to be interviewing you. And she told me to tell you hello. And she also said, if I get pregnant again, will you two be my dream team? And I said, most definitely I'll be there. I said, but we'll be coming a lot sooner next time.
It was the right time.
No, it was the right time, definitely.
I always feel like, sometimes someone births a baby that quick. And I always think, weren't you glad you weren't planning a hospital birth, or you would have had a rose-tight birth?
Yeah.
I find it's hilarious when, baby delivered on the side of the road by EMTs. And I'm like, the baby came out.
Yeah,
that's
the baby came out.
I was like, the ones that don't come out, you're there for. They come out,
Exactly. EMTs do not deliver babies. I'm always amazed at how I tell people often how little EMTs know about birth. They just put their hands there. I love how they give the EMT credit, and it's like, no, mom birthed that baby. The baby was coming. Exactly. They just did there. But yeah, so that was great. Thank you. I mean, you touched on all of the things that I was going to get at. And remember the questions I said that I would have that and you were like, don't give me any hard ones. I was like, you already hit them because it just was a nice conversation. The next segment that I go into is called Daily Inspiration. And my first question is, what is your favorite scent?
Holy wood and lavender are my favorites.
Oh, nice. Lavender is one of my favorites.
The holy wood?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I love it.
Yeah.
Now my building has gone smoke-free, and they say you can't even burn incense. So it's like, really? I just look at my sticks and go like, I can't even burn this.
No.
Yeah, they're like a total smoke-free now. I used to love to burn my holy wood.
Oh no! Yeah, that I think we haven't quite gotten there. We're supposedly smoke-free, but in my building, but you still smell smoke.
So do we. Yeah, then I was like, well, people still smoking cigarettes and
exactly.
Like,
I could burn
like this smells good, but I was like, I don't want to get kicked out.
Yeah, no. Not now. Definitely not now. What's a book, film, or show or podcast that's inspiring you right now?
Yours.
Thank you. Thank you.
I have to say, the whole being the front and center is not my thing. And you kept at it. And I was like, just see what this chick is doing. And I was like, okay, it is like just talking to her, like when I see her on the street.
Yeah.
I was like, okay, I could do this.
Yes, you could do this. I think that a lot of people feel that it's a lot more like it's like a NPR or one of those. But no, it's just a good conversation. I really want people to understand that that, you know, there's so many people in birth and so many facets of birth, and that we all have these fascinating stories of how we came together and came to birth. And also that you have these options out here for, you know, I have people who are like, their midwives still exist. And I'm like, yeah, they do. Like, you know, and like all of these things that we do around birth, chiropractor, acupuncture, craniosacral, pelvic floor therapist, like, and that we're out here as people of color as well in those facets of the birth world. Yeah. Well, thank you for that. What's a quote that inspires you or that you think about daily?
I don't have a quote, but my go-to person is Maya Angelou. So many times, like, you have to write a speech or write something, I was like, what would Maya say? Yes. And I have, like, in my notes, I have, like, some of the famous ones that I tend to use or like, but I don't have anything. But just, you know, the something that I just try to always stay present and try to be conscious of is, you know, the good old prayer of serenity, you know?
Yeah.
Just kind of just, you know, just be present, do what you can. And, you know, you can't change. Don't waste your time on that. Change what you can and just keep, you know, keep living, just keep it moving.
Yeah. But Maya is one of my favorites as well. I was listening to something recently, I forgot what it was, and they were talking about Maya Angelou sat down with Dave Chappelle and had a conversation. And Dave had asked her, you know, like, what do you do when people are saying all of these horrible things about you and it's your own people? And the person said that she said, I don't pick it up and I don't put it down. And I was like, yes, that is great. I could totally see that. And I was like, that's not mine. You can't tell me anything about me, you know? So yeah, Maya was incredible. Yeah. Totally. I really enjoyed our conversation.
Yeah, really nice. This is very nice.
Yes, I'm glad you agreed to do it.
Yeah, because when you first asked, I was like, maybe she'll just forget. I was like, oh, then she goes off me. Nope, but then it was real quiet. I was like, then I, you know, never saw you before. Then I would run on the street.
I think I saw you once or twice before, after that birth we had together. I saw you once or twice in the street, and I didn't realize that we lived so close to each other.
Right.
So, yeah, I was just
right there.
I was right there. Like, I see you all the time now. It's so great to see you all the time. Also, the one question I do have is that, so do you still practice as a midwife?
Okay. So after 17 marvelous years of doing home birth. Okay. So when I became a midwife, I worked in a hospital for 2 years. Mm-hmm. And then I also worked at Elizabeth Seton before it closed. Mm-hmm. As I started up my home birth practice. I had JJB Midwifery from 2002 to last year. I hung up my birthing gloves. As in 2013, I started a nonprofit, Foundation for Advancement of Haitian Midwives. Yes. To promote midwifery in Haiti. And so I really wanted to kind of do that full time. And so I still now do, you know, I'm still a clinician. So it's like I still do GYN mostly for my clients. Mm-hmm. And now I'm getting a real round of, get this, my clients' children.
Oh, wow.
I have a teenage following and some of their friends that which is really kind of nice to keep my, you know, clinical hand skills going and that kind of you know, midwifery work. And so I'm working as the executive director of FAM, that we call it Foundation Advancement of Haitian Midwives, full time, and I'm enjoying it. And like I said, I like to try to think doing JJB midwifery straight was the longest thing I ever did in my whole life. Uh-huh. But I like the variety of what you can do with it. I know there are a lot of home birth midwives that just do the births and not GYN. I always like the mix of seeing, you know, different aspects of women's health and, you know, women's health care, and not just birth. I mean, birth is, you know, my baby, but but I love doing GYN too.
And so, Fam, what exactly I know you said you're the director, but what services are you offering? What is...
So what I found is, I'm Haitian, obviously, you can tell by my name. But what I found is, Haiti's a country of about 11 million people, with almost half being women. Midwives are often the only point of healthcare a woman will ever seek in her lifetime. So midwives are in an optimal position to be that person. So, I think a lot of people think of midwives as, baby catchers. No, they, health educators, they're part of the community. So they're in the optimal position for so many services. So Haiti has one school of midwifery, and it has a nice midwifery association that has chapters in all 10 departments of Haiti. So we do a lot of capacity building. We do they identified they needed more continuing education. So we put on continuing education conferences. Now with the pandemic and everything else going on, we've been also committed to working around GBV, gender-based violence issues, which is a global issue, but we're concentrating on, Haiti and bringing people resources. And we had in 2018 a big training conference for the midwives, and we've since been doing follow-up focus work to really see what's going on in all 10 departments and how midwives can make more of a difference and help change the system. And so this year, since we're not meeting in person for a gender-based violence conference, we're putting on a set of 4 webinars from about gender-based violence in Haiti, in the Haitian cultural context. We have doctors, psychologists, sexologists, so it's a 4-part series. Yesterday was the first one, and then the 18th, the 24th, and December 2nd, because November 25th is International Day of Eradication of Gender-Based Violence. So we're kind of going around that so that people really have the resources to rely on. And something else that I noticed with, I hate when people say global health, but healthcare in another country, whatever you want to call it, or people tend to not respect cultures and what's already there, and as the people being experts on their own narrative.
Yes.
So our panelists, we really rely and try to in-source as much as we can, and also for whether I'm there or not, like this year, I didn't put on anything in person, it still functions. Yeah. So real sustainability means letting people decide what they need and helping them get what they need without your judgment. You can introduce ideas. Like one time we were going to have a big leadership conference, and then they were like, Martine, I had everything lined up. People are dying of cervical cancer. We need to do this. It's like, change it up, Yeah. And that's what it's more about, helping them meet their needs, helping locals connect to other locals, and helping with resources that way versus or is you're up here and they're down here. It's so not like that. Yeah. And we have so much to learn about our traditions that we've lost being diaspora. Excuse me, I never say that word in English right.
You said
diaspora?
Diaspora.
Oh, that's diaspora. Okay. Yeah. Here, we've lost some of our culture and knowledge that they have. So that interchanging of ideas is really good. So the other thing that I noticed that it's really giving them their voice and their presence, because in the country right now, there are under 400 midwives for the whole country, which is not enough. And we need to get more midwives out there. And let the public know, because sometimes even here in the States, kind of midwives are always marketed towards for the poor people. It's for everybody. Yeah. And even, some middle class people here and in Haiti too, kind of I didn't know this is available. I didn't know what it was. And I would have picked a doctor that showed up with all this cologne at the last minute if I could have a midwife that was actually, teaching me in every visit and, all the other stuff that we do. So it's really interesting. And this podcast too, I also made it a point that it's, all the speakers are Haitian that live in Haiti and actually do the work. Yeah. We're better to tell our narrative. I'm, a little bit tired of seeing all these advertisements about different topics and there's no Haitian as part of it when it's about Haiti and Haitian. You know, like I don't get it. Like I would never go to Zambia and say I'm an expert on Zambian anything. Yeah. You know, and even me being diaspora, I'm not the expert on midwifery in Haiti. I'm not a midwife practicing in Haiti. Yeah. Or just this, you know, or that sense of there's so many ways that you can help, and going and being present or doing something is you always have to look sometimes with this volunteerism and tourist volunteerism of what you're getting out of it, or is it what are they getting out of it? You go, you know, you look good for yourself, or sometimes well-meaning friends will tell me, when are you going to Haiti? I want to go. I'm like, when I'm not working and when I'm just there for vacation. There's like the best beaches in the world in Haiti, by the way. But, you know, even me as a midwife, you know, me catching a baby in Haiti, why? Like I told you at the beginning of this podcast, I'm a diehard Upper West Sider. Yeah. It's like I love to go back and forth. You know, I can go like back and forth every month if I have to. But you know, I'm in New York. I live here. It's not going to help them. Yeah. So it's helping people help themselves so that they can stand on their own. So that you're not needing to be that extra little backbone or that little helper for them.
Yeah, thank you. That's really. I'm going to make sure that I include your organization in the show notes as well, because I think people, you know, getting support and getting the word out there is really, really helpful. Yeah.
Thank you.
No, thank you so much. I really appreciate your time and getting to speak to you outside of the streets of you know, the Upper West Side.
I'm gonna have a Cuban sandwich. Hey.
I know, right? Next time I go grab a Cuban sandwich, I'm gonna send you a text message and be like, "You around? Grab a coffee." I really love the café con leche, though. Thank you so much.
This is not painful at all. Thank you.
Yes, you're welcome. You're welcome. See, I told you.
That's what I keep saying. Sometimes I've started some of your podcasts and I haven't, but recently I was like, no, instead of listening to CNN as I'm going about my business, I was like, this is what I need to have in the background and listen to.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Good job. Keep it up.
I will. Thank you so much. Have a great rest of your day.
You too.
All right. Talk soon.
You, Mike.
Yeah. Mike.
All right.
Just
All right.
Awesome.
All right.
Great job.
Great. Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.